Live to Los Angeles now, and Earl Hutchinson, he is an author, political analyst. We're going to talk through this and other US political matters. Thank you for joining us. Earl, what do you make of terrorist threats in politics? And actually, how do they play with the voters in the end?
Well, I think certainly it has to be taken seriously because, as we well know, given the last decade in the United States after 9/11, terrorism has been a major issue, not only in terms of public security and public safety, but also in terms of politics. Politics, as we well know, former President George Bush essentially was seen as the president essentially that was tough on terrorism, essentially very strong in terms of enforcing the laws and certainly doing everything possible to sell himself as a president that will in fact ensure the safety of the American people. And also on the other side, we also know that one of the major things that actually hurt John Kerry during the 2004 presidential election was soft on terrorism, soft on the war, soft on national security. That's always a problem with Democrats.
So does it play into the Republicans' hands this time? This isn't, of course, a presidential election with one figurehead like you were describing President Bush before, but does it play into Republicans' hands?
Well, it could. We don't know. Now, remember, this is coming very close to the midterm elections, really only 3 days away. And so at this point in time, we don't know what impact this is going to have. We do know one thing. President Obama certainly over the last week has toured a number of states and a number of cities, but he hasn't really talked about terrorism. What he's talked about is still the #1 thing and the #1 concern of the American people. Jobs in the economy. So this is something that's coming in very late in the political game. We'll have to see how it plays out, but I can say this. Still the #1 thing that people are concerned about and are still very critical of the president and Democrats is, what are you doing? Are you doing enough to jumpstart the economy?
Let's widen this out further, Earl. Do you think a Republican-dominated, a Republican-led House is now a foregone conclusion? I know it's close, and I know you've been speaking to Valerie Jarrett, I believe, who's very close to President Obama in the White House.
Well, one of the things that Valerie Jarrett said, and by the way, we had that conversation today, and essentially what she said was this: we don't, and by we, the White House, the president, we don't pay attention to the pundits, we don't pay attention to the analysts, we just do our thing. We're going about the business of trying to not only shore up Democrats are, and many of them are in trouble, as we well know, but also do the best that we can to ensure that Democrats retain not only control of the Senate, but also the House, too. So at this point in time, one of the things that they are concerned, and many are concerned about, are the pundits right? Will the Republican Party take back the House of Representatives? At this point in time, it's still up in the air. I can say this. Over the last week and a half, one thing we have seen, the races have tightened up. Whereas before it was a far gone conclusion, the GOP was just essentially going to clean house in terms of the House of Representatives. But now, not so sure. Many of the races are very close, and the Democrats, believe it or not, in some of the key areas are actually beginning to show a lot of life.
That is Earl Hutchinson joining us from Los Angeles on a fascinating US political debate. Thank you, Earl.